Hey you guys, it's me Gemstone from www.thebeautyinspirit.com. I hope you guys are having a really good week. Now, the reading I'm going to be doing for you today is from the 20th of October through to the 26th, and I'm going to be using the Shadowscapes Tarot. Basically, I've decided to set myself a challenge to basically go through all the decks that I have, my tarot decks, and get acquainted with them again, because I feel like there's one deck in particular that I love to do readings with for other people. I love to do readings with it for myself, and I have all these other decks, and I usually spend like the bulk of my time with that one deck. And so just to um kind of connect back with those other decks, I've decided to do this challenge where basically for a week I'm only going to be using one deck, and it has to be like a deck that I don't use often well these days. And so I decided to pick up the to pull out the Shadowscapes Tarot, and I've fallen in love with it again. Like, I really love this deck, and I think the only real reason I kind of distanced myself from it was the fact that it just really annoyed me that the cards are quite thin in this deck, which I think I've mentioned before, and that just, it grinds my gears. It gets on my nerves about this deck, because otherwise I think that this deck is just so great. I love the artwork, I love the messages that come through the cards, like everything, but that one thing really bothers me. um but yeah, I'm gonna stop rambling and I'm gonna get into the reading. And the cards are quite interesting. I did lay them out beforehand because I had some issues going, like, starting. But it's interesting because I remember in the last reading I did, I'm sure it was the last reading, we had two women show up, two female cards show up. And I didn't really go into, like, the female aspect of the card. I did go into basically what the card means generally. I didn't really say it can represent a female, but in those kind of instances it can, when you have court cards or cards that are like court cards. But it's interesting that in this reading for this week we have two men, and at the beginning of the week we have the King of Cups, which is here. I love this card. Oh, it's one of my favorite, I think, King of Cups cards. And then this one, we have the King of Swords, and there's such a different energy. They're so different, but it's all in the same week, at the beginning and at the end. And it's interesting because these two together, element wise, they don't really go together. So it's interesting to see, I guess, all the cards in between, how they kind of fit to sort of bring these two together in some kind of way. But what I feel is that the King of Cups can represent a man in our lives, can represent a man that is nurturing, caring, sensitive. Um, but the interesting thing about water energy is they can be really sensitive and they can be loving and stuff, but if you get on the wrong side of them, they can be a bit vicious. They can be. I don't mean vicious like they would just pounce on you, but they have a thing about them, because when you think about it, Cancer is represented by the crab, and Scorpio is represented by the scorpion. And they are animals that if you get at them, they'll snip at you and hurt you. And I noticed that yeah, definitely, for people that are water signs, they can be quite like that. So you can't get on the wrong side of them. But if you get on the right side of them, they will make a really great friend and companion to you, because they're very helpful. They really care about people. And so this might be somebody that is in your life that really cares about you. And for me, I see this seahorse up here. And whenever I look at this card, I always think that that seahorse that the king is looking at is like some kind of helper or messenger for him. Like, it's almost like he's the one that goes out and does, the king's bidding, and then he comes back and tells the king, like, what he's seen or what has been going on or something like that. and then the king has this huge cup in his hand, which to me is all about, it's about being able to contain your emotions. And I think emotionally, people that have that kind of water energy about them, they can deal with a lot emotionally, that most other signs wouldn't be able to deal with. It can be even more general than that. This card may not always represent a person. It could also represent it could represent an element of yourself. Maybe there's a situation where you are having to deal with a lot of emotions, and be able to contain those emotions. It also could be, especially because we have the seahorse messenger, it could be that you're getting some kind of message that has to do with something that makes you feel quite emotional too. So to kind of get more information from that card, we can look at the next one, which is the Ace of Swords. And for me, this is about, swords always represents communication. And this card represents clear communication, which is amazing because we're in, that Mercury retrograde. So when communications can be a bit haywire, but in this instance, it's saying that some message may come through to you that is going to be very clear to you. And it's almost like it's going to give you a change of perspective. So anything that may have been, you may have been in the dark about or doubting, is now going to be really clear, and you're going to understand what is going on now. Almost like any veil that was covering your eyes. It could even be an emotional veil that might have been covering your eyes, because at one point, I think it was a reading last week, it did talk to me, it felt like a really emotional kind of reading, whereas this reading is like we're moving from emotion into the more logic energy with these two cards coming. So things are changing, is shifting now. So it's like, with that being said, I feel like this situation, it can mean that some communication is coming through where yeah, we're seeing things clearly, but now all of a sudden we're thinking differently. So it's not so much about the feelings anymore, it's more about what we think. So with that card next to it, we have this one, which is the Wheel of Fortune. Another really pretty card. And the Wheel of Fortune means that something is switching up. That's what it means. Something is switching up. Basically, the opposite of whatever has been happening is now gonna happen. And the opposite can be good, it can be something that you don't really want. But basically, what the Wheel of Fortune says is about risk. It's about a gamble. It's about something. It is about time as well. It's about the timing of things. But what I see is that it's about a cycle being completed. So being that we first started with the Ace and now we have the Wheel of Fortune, it's saying that information that comes through is going to change our perspective completely about something, to the point that now we can see the conclusion of something. So whatever is concluding, it doesn't necessarily mean something has to end. It just means that something has gone through, it's going through a new cycle right now. So if this is an emotional situation, or if you've been feeling quite emotional, that might be the end of the cycle for you. Maybe now you're moving from a more emotional state into a more logical state, because of the fact that it calls for it. Whatever is going on in your life right now calls for that shift to take place right now. So and the change that is coming through from that Wheel of Fortune then brings up the King of Swords. So for me, the King of Swords, he looks like he's in contemplation. He looks like he's thinking about something. He's in deep thought. He's looking at these crows. Crows can also be a sign of things ending too. And so it's almost like he's saying, you have a choice you have to make. You have a choice that you have to make by the end of the week. And the choice has to do with this change that has come in with that Wheel of Fortune card. the things that are changing in your life by midweek, you have to think about what you're going to do with this. What are you going to do with this new information? Now that things are clear for you, what direction are you going to take? Because now there is some kind of opportunity that might be presented with this Wheel of Fortune. Could even be a good opportunity as well. I think, to me, when I look at this reading, that's what it's saying. I think for somebody out here this week, there's going to be an opportunity that presents itself for you, that you end up getting. You're going to hear from this person maybe in an email. It could be a phone conversation, but I'm feeling like so much like it's going to be an email that is going to be coming to you. And when it comes to you, and I feel like the email is going to be sent by this person, this King of Cups person. So it's like this King of Cups person is sending you some kind of communication, and this is about an opportunity. And this opportunity might be risky, it might be a gamble, it might be something that you're even uncertain about, but it's something that can really, it can be something that can really bloom. It's good. It's a good opportunity. It might even be something that calls for you to embark on some kind of higher learning. It could be something that comes through that means that you have to, it's almost like doing something that helps you grow and helps you expand in some kind of way. It's like that kind of opportunity. But with anything that calls for you to grow and expand, it can mean that this could be something that you're not so used to. It might take more out of you, or you might have to put more into it than maybe what you're used to. And so there might be something about this opportunity that makes you kind of doubt whether you should take it or not, go with it or not. And then now it's like you're thinking about it. Should I take it? Should I not take it? What should I do? And the big issue with swords, the King of Swords too, is that sometimes with that sword's energy, it's hard to make choices, because you're going to be thinking, should I do this, and should I do that, and should I do this, and should I... and then you can just stay for ages just doing that. You know. And then the card, when I turned the deck over to sort of get to the sort of the heart of the issue, what is going on beneath the surface of these cards, the Judgment card showed up. And the Judgment card, to me, one being a major arcana, so it means that there's some big decisions that we're going to be faced with. But the Judgment card is all about as well, sort of that death and rebirth as well. So it's interesting that the Wheel of Fortune is about completion, but the Judgment card is also about a sense of completion, but completion that turns into something that is new coming through. So it's saying that you have to make a choice this week about what you're going to do. You can't doubt yourself. You can't be thinking about what I'm going to do. How is this going to pan out? I don't know. Because that's what Swords energy does. It's like you think into the future already, and the future hasn't even happened. But you're always trying to strategize things. You're trying to make sure things work out, like every step of the way. And sometimes that's just not the case. A lot of the time that's not the case. Especially when you get an opportunity like what the Wheel of Fortune brings. It's not going to be an opportunity that is going to be something where you're going to just see exactly what the outcome is going to be, because it's something that comes through, and it's almost like it's something that comes through and you have to take a chance with it. And because you have to take a chance with it, you're not going to have all the answers about it. You're not going to know exactly where it's all going to lead to in the future. But it can be something that is good for you if you're willing to take that chance. And what the Judgment card said is that you can't stay too long in contemplation. You have to make a choice about what you're going to do. You have to make a decision right now, because something is coming to completion. So yes, very interesting reading with the Shadowscapes Tarot. So I'll see you guys. Have a nice week. Bye.